Beyond the Gates spoilers tease that Jacob has finally located the hidden house deep in the forest where Allison has been holding Chelsea captive, and this revelation sets into motion a chain of events more terrifying and emotional than anyone expected. The discovery does not come easily, nor is it the product of luck. Martin, driven by desperation to see Chelsea safe again, engages in a quiet exchange of information with Joey, whose knowledge of backroad paths and obscure woodland structures proves invaluable. Joey has always been reluctant to get involved, too aware of the danger Allison poses, but Martin's persistence and the anguish written across his face eventually chip away at Joey's hesitation. The fragments of information coordinates jotted on a napkin, whispers about a secluded cabin built long before the gates were erected, become the threads Martin weaves together. When Martin rushes to Jacob with the information, Jacob knows the clock is ticking. Every hour Chelsea spends trapped with Allison is another hour her spirit erodes under the weight of psychological torment. Jacob's face hardens into resolve, his years of training and experience shifting him into rescue mode. He gathers what he needs swiftly, refusing to waste a second, and sets out toward the forest with the knowledge that what awaits him could alter every life entangled in this nightmare. Back at home, the emotional stakes are just as high. Anita clings to Vernon as though the strength of his arms alone can hold her together. They have endured sleepless nights, endless speculation, and the gnawing fear that Chelsea might already be lost. But the moment news filters back that Jacob is moving in for a rescue, hope flares for the first time in weeks. The embrace they share is not one of victory but of fragile relief, of daring to imagine a future where Chelsea returns. Their tears mix with laughter, a bittersweet release of tension that has held their bodies rigid for too long. Even before the outcome is certain, Anita whispers prayers of gratitude, as if voicing hope aloud might guide Jacob's steps in the dark forest. Inside the cabin, however, time stretches cruelly for Chelsea. The hours bleed together, her sense of self fraying under Allison's erratic behavior. At first, Chelsea fought with everything in her, resisting the strange logic Allison spun about building a new life together. But Allison's persistence, her manipulative blend of tenderness and menace, wormed into Chelsea's mind. Fatigue sets in, and with it comes the terrifying temptation to surrender. The future Allison paints is twisted, a world cut off from Chelsea's family, but after days of mental assault, even the illusion of stability begins to seduce her. Chelsea wonders if survival means pretending to accept this future, if resistance will only lead to pain. Yet deep inside, a flame still burns. She clings to memories of her family, Anita's voice calling her name, Martin's unwavering belief that she will return, Vernon's quiet strength. These memories ground her, reminding her that she is not as alone as Allison wants her to believe. When Allison's hands become intrusive, tracing patterns on her skin under the guise of affection, the revulsion surges. Chelsea realizes surrender is no longer an option. Survival demands resistance. The breaking point arrives suddenly. Allison, her eyes wide with manic devotion, whispers about their future, about how Chelsea will forget the past and live only for her. Chelsea, trembling with equal parts fear and fury, snaps. With a surge of strength born from desperation, she kicks Allison hard, the force sending her captor stumbling backward. The moment is chaotic, adrenaline roaring in Chelsea's veins. She stands, heart pounding, ready to run, but the cabin's walls feel too close, too suffocating. Allison recovers quickly, her face twisting from shock to rage. She snarls, spitting venomous words about betrayal, and her gaze darts to the knife lying on the table. Time slows as she lunges toward it, her fingers inches from the blade. Chelsea's scream catches in her throat, her body frozen between fight and flight. The door bursts open before the knife finds its target. Jacob barrels inside, every movement precise, honed by training and sharpened by urgency. In one fluid motion, he intercepts Allison, tackling her before she can seize the weapon. The struggle is brief but violent, Allison thrashing like a wild animal, her shrieks echoing off the wooden walls. Jacob restrains her, his grip unyielding, as Chelsea collapses against the far wall, sobs racking her body. Relief crashes over her in waves so intense she can barely breathe. The nightmare has broken, the walls of the prison no longer closing in. When Martin arrives moments later, his chest heaving, eyes wild with fear, Chelsea runs into his arms. The embrace is desperate, crushing, both of them clinging as if to anchor themselves in reality. Chelsea weeps openly, her tears soaking his shoulder, whispering words of disbelief. "You found me. You found me." Martin holds her tighter, his own tears betraying the weeks of torment he endured imagining this moment. But even as Chelsea tastes freedom, the shadows of trauma linger. Allison, pinned to the ground, thrashes and screams, hurling accusations and declarations in equal measure. Her voice cuts through the cabin like broken glass, vowing that Chelsea will never be free of her, that the bond she forced will haunt Chelsea forever. The words embed themselves in Chelsea's mind, leaving scars invisible to the eye. Even as Allison is dragged away, her eyes lock onto Chelsea's, wild and unrelenting, and Chelsea shudders, knowing the echoes of this ordeal will not vanish with Allison's capture. Outside the cabin, the air feels colder, sharper, as if the forest itself has borne witness to the horror inside. Jacob steadies Chelsea, ensuring she can walk, but every step feels like moving through a fog. The reality of her rescue has not yet settled in. Part of her still expects to wake and find Allison's hand gripping hers, whispering about futures she never wanted. Back home, Anita and Vernon brace themselves for Chelsea's return. Their joy at hearing she has been found is tempered by dread of what she has endured. They imagine her face, pale and drawn, her body thin from captivity, her spirit fractured by Allison's madness. They know the embrace they long for will be bittersweet relief intermingled with grief. And when Chelsea finally arrives, escorted by Jacob and Martin, their fears are confirmed. She is safe, but not whole. The trauma clings to her like a shadow, and as Anita wraps her daughter in trembling arms, she feels the silent weight of all the words Chelsea cannot yet speak. The community, too, reels from the revelation. Allison's betrayal cuts deep. She was one of their own, her madness hidden beneath a veneer of normalcy. The gates that once symbolized safety now feel like walls that concealed danger, and whispers ripple through the neighbors about what other secrets might lurk behind closed doors. Joey, shaken by his role in guiding Martin to the truth, withdraws into himself, wrestling with guilt for not speaking sooner. He knows the rescue could have come earlier, that Chelsea's torment might have been shortened if he had acted faster. For Chelsea, the days following her rescue blur together. Sleep offers little rest. Her dreams are haunted by Allison's voice, by the feel of her hands, by the sight of the knife gleaming on the table. Even in the warmth of her family's embrace, she startles at sudden sounds, her body tensing as though Allison might reappear at any moment. The comfort of Martin's arms brings solace, but also guilt. She feels tainted by Allison's touch, unworthy of the purity of Martin's devotion. Jacob remains a quiet sentinel during these days, ensuring Allison is securely contained and that Chelsea's safety is unquestioned. Yet even he feels the weight of Allison's final words, the chilling certainty that her grip on Chelsea extends beyond physical captivity. He knows the law can bind Allison's body, but binding her influence on Chelsea's mind is another battle entirely. As the first wave of relief ebbs, questions begin to surface. How long had Allison been planning this? What twisted logic drove her to believe Chelsea belonged to her? And perhaps most unsettling, who else knew? Madison's evasions, Shanice's probing questions, Vanessa's whispers about secrets too dangerous to voice all resurface in the collective memory of the community. The rescue answers one desperate prayer but opens a dozen new wounds, and beneath the relief lies the undeniable truth. The gates cannot keep out madness, nor can they contain its aftermath. And in Chelsea's haunted eyes, everyone sees the same terrifying possibility. Though Allison is gone, her madness has left seeds behind, and no one can be sure where they will take root. The days following Allison's arrest bring no real peace. Though her body is confined behind steel bars, her presence lingers like a toxin in every corner of Chelsea's mind. The police reports describe Allison as volatile but controlled under interrogation, a woman who slips between calm detachment and wild raving. Jacob spends hours across the table from her, trying to unravel her motives, But every answer is a labyrinth. One moment she insists she loved Chelsea and saved her from a false life, the next she spits venom, accusing the world of conspiring to keep them apart. Jacob sees the danger in her lucidity, that beneath the madness lies calculation, a mind that knew exactly what it was doing. Chelsea tries to rebuild her routines, but every step is heavy with dread. Anita prepares her favorite meals, Vernon sits quietly nearby offering silent support, and Martin refuses to let her feel alone. Yet Chelsea drifts in and out of the present, her eyes glassy, her voice barely above a whisper. She wakes at night trembling, her skin crawling as if Allison's hands still linger. In one chilling moment, Anita finds her daughter curled up in the bathroom, rocking back and forth, muttering Allison's words about their future together. It becomes clear that the rescue ended one battle, but the war is far from over. Martin struggles with his own turmoil. Holding Chelsea that night in the cabin felt like victory, but now he sees how deeply she is scarred. He cannot erase the images in his head of her trembling, of the fear etched into her body. He blames himself for not finding her sooner, for relying on Joey when he could have searched harder. The guilt gnaws at him, and though he tries to hide it, Chelsea senses the weight he carries. Sometimes she pulls away, terrified that her brokenness will break him too. Their love, once steady, now trembles under the burden of survival. Anita and Vernon present a united front, but behind closed doors their differences widen. Anita believes Chelsea must confront the trauma head-on, speak about it, purge the poison through words. Vernon believes silence is survival, that pushing Chelsea to relive the nightmare will only sink her deeper. Their arguments crackle through the house at night, and Chelsea overhears enough to know her recovery has become a battleground. Instead of comfort, she feels pressure, expected to heal in the way others think is best. The guilt of not meeting their expectations adds to the weight she already carries. Jacob, meanwhile, becomes obsessed with Allison's interrogation. He replays every conversation, every phrase she utters. There is something deliberate in her chaos, something that suggests layers beneath her madness. Allison hints at having allies, people who knew of the cabin, people who allowed her to act unchecked. Jacob doesn't dismiss it as ranting. He has been in this line of work long enough to know that hidden truths often sound like insanity until they are proven real. His instincts tell him this case is not over, and that the forest cabin was only a stage for something larger. Joey tries to fade into the background, but his role in the rescue does not go unnoticed. Some praise him for providing information, others whisper that he should have come forward sooner. The whispers cut deep because they carry truth. Joey could have spared Chelsea days of torment, but his fear kept him silent. Now, the guilt manifests in paranoia. He avoids crowds, avoids questions, and when Martin confronts him one evening with barely contained rage, Joey has no defense. All he can say is that he was scared, but the words sound hollow even to him. As the trial looms, Allison becomes more dangerous. In court she refuses to appear broken. She walks with her chin high, her eyes locked on Chelsea whenever possible, smiling in ways that make Chelsea's blood run cold. She testifies about her love, about how Chelsea was ready to embrace a life with her until others interfered. Her lies are slick, rehearsed, and unsettlingly persuasive. Chelsea trembles on the stand, her voice faltering as she recounts the nights of fear, the unwanted touches, the moment she kicked Allison away. The courtroom feels suffocating, Allison's gaze a knife that slices into her every time she speaks. Anita clutches Vernon's hand so tightly her knuckles blanch, whispering prayers as if her voice could shield Chelsea from Allison's stare. Martin, watching helplessly, feels his chest tighten with rage, wanting to leap across the aisle and silence Allison forever. Jacob, calm but tense, scans every face in the room, searching for any sign of complicity among the spectators. The verdict eventually condemns Allison, but victory tastes bitter. She screams as the sentence is read, not in despair but in triumph, shouting promises that Chelsea will never be free of her. Her voice echoes through the chamber, lodging itself in every listener's memory. The guards drag her out, but the damage is done. Chelsea collapses into Martin's arms, sobbing not in relief but in terror. because Allison's words feel like prophecy. The aftermath leaves the family fractured. Chelsea retreats further inward, Anita hovering too closely, Vernon pulling too far away. Martin oscillates between fierce protectiveness and despairing distance. Joey tries to drink away his guilt, haunted by the role he played. Jacob alone remains steady, but even he knows they are standing on fragile ground. And then the letters arrive. Handwritten, addressed to Chelsea, postmarked from places Allison cannot possibly be. They contain fragments of sentences, phrases only Chelsea and Allison shared during captivity. Chelsea's hands shake as she reads them, her breath catching in her throat. Anita insists they must be forgeries, Vernon growls about cruel hoaxes, but Jacob feels the chill settle in his bones. He remembers Allison's hints about allies, about not being alone in her mission. Someone on the outside is continuing her work. Chelsea spirals. Sleep becomes impossible. Trust an illusion. Every shadow feels like Allison's return, every knock at the door like the beginning of another nightmare. Martin begs her to believe she is safe, but Chelsea cannot. The letters prove Allison's reach extends beyond prison walls. She begins to believe the words Allison screamed in court, that she will never be free. Anita prays harder, Vernon grows angrier, Martin feels helpless. Joey disappears for days at a time, drowning himself in silence, and Jacob tightens his investigation. He knows the battle is not finished, that Allison's madness was only one head of a larger beast. The community whispers grow louder, secrets surface, and trust frays. Chelsea stands at the center of it all, torn between hope and despair. She longs for peace but feels the shadow looming ever closer. And though Allison is locked away, her presence lingers like a ghost that refuses to be exorcised. The gates that promised safety now feel like bars on a cage, holding Chelsea in with the memory of her captor and the certainty that danger still waits just beyond the walls. The letters become the breaking point. Chelsea, already fragile, begins to feel hunted again. Each envelope carries Allison's voice back into her life, phrases about their shared bond, reminders of moments in captivity, twisted declarations of belonging. The handwriting is familiar enough to send chills down Chelsea's spine, though logically she knows Allison could not have written them from prison. But logic offers no comfort when the words cut so precisely into her wounds. Martin tries to burn the letters, thinking that destroying them will destroy Allison's reach. But Chelsea cannot forget once she has read. The words sink into her mind, replaying at night, whispering during the day. She begins to question everyone around her. Who sent them? Who still believes in Allison's obsession? The paranoia grows so sharp that she even flinches at Martin's touch, wondering if he knows more than he admits. Their once unshakable bond strains under the pressure, and Martin feels her slipping away even as he clings tighter. Jacob, refusing to dismiss the letters as pranks, digs deeper into Allison's past. He uncovers fragments, names of old acquaintances, hints of secret meetings, whispers of others who shared her warped philosophy about love and possession. The possibility emerges that Allison was never acting alone, that she is part of something wider, something far more insidious. Jacob doesn't share every detail with Chelsea, she is already on the edge. But he confides in Anita and Vernon, warning them that Allison's capture may have silenced one voice, but not the chorus that stands behind her. Anita prays louder, lighting candles late into the night, whispering that faith can shield them. Vernon grows more suspicious, patrolling the yard, keeping watch at the windows. Their home, once a sanctuary, becomes a fortress of fear. The community notices their neighbors speak in hushed tones about the family cursed by Allison's madness, about the possibility of danger still lurking within the gates. The once comforting fences now feel like a cage where everyone watches, everyone whispers, and no one trusts. Chelsea receives a final letter, different from the others. It contains only a single sentence: "The future Allison promised is still waiting." The simplicity is more terrifying than all the elaborate messages before. Chelsea's body shakes as she holds the page, the weight of inevitability pressing down on her. She tells Martin she cannot escape, that Allison was right, that she is marked forever. Martin refuses to accept it. He pulls her close, swearing they will face whatever comes, but his words sound thin against the tide of dread rolling over them both. One night, Chelsea disappears from her room. Anita finds the window open, the curtains fluttering in the cold air. Panic erupts through the household. Vernon charges into the yard shouting her name. Martin tears through the streets searching. Anita collapses to her knees, begging heaven not to take her daughter again. Jacob arrives within minutes, his expression grim, his instincts already fearing the worst. The letters were not idle threats, they were preparation. Hours later, Chelsea is found near the woods, barefoot and dazed, clutching the last letter against her chest. She insists she saw Allison, that Allison was calling to her, that she had no choice but to follow. Jacob scours the area and finds no trace, but the look in Chelsea's eyes is undeniable. She believes Allison still holds her. Whether it was hallucination, manipulation, or a real accomplice in the shadows, the damage is done. Chelsea has crossed from victim into haunted believer, her identity tangled irreversibly with her captor. The community closes tighter after that, fear breeding suspicion. Some say Chelsea will never recover, that Allison has broken her beyond repair. Others whisper that Chelsea herself may become dangerous, carrying Allison's madness inside her like an infection. Martin refuses to let go, but even he wonders late at night if love is enough to pull Chelsea back. Anita clings to faith, Vernon to vigilance, but both sense the fracture widening. Jacob, staring at the forest where Chelsea was found, feels a chill settle deep in his bones. He knows Allison is locked away, but he cannot ignore the possibility of accomplices, or the darker truth that Allison doesn't need to be physically present to win. She has already carved her way into Chelsea's psyche, and perhaps into the community itself. Jacob realizes the gates were never designed to protect against enemies like her, because the real prison is the mind, and that prison may never open again. The story closes on Chelsea sitting alone in her room, the final letter folded neatly in her hands. She traces the words over and over, her tears falling silently onto the page. Outside, Martin whispers her name, Anita prays by candlelight, Vernon keeps watch, and Jacob digs through evidence that refuses to give him peace. Somewhere, even in silence, Allison's laughter lingers, whether from memory, imagination, or something more. And in that suffocating quiet, one truth becomes undeniable: Allison may be gone, but her shadow remains, and within the gates, shadows are harder to escape than walls.